Ron? Where is Ron right now?
Ron here. Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. You know, I had so much fun yesterday going back through the David Miscavige Ted Koppel interview from 1992. Not only has David Miscavige never done another interview with the media since that 1992 interview, but you would be hard-pressed to find any Scientology spokesperson at all who has sat down and done any media interviews since that point. And yet that is exactly what I have for you guys today and what I'm gonna watch. I have not yet watched this interview. This is gonna serve as a perfect example of what is the sort of propaganda that Scientology is currently putting out into the community about itself, and how sophisticated are they in dealing with the community and responding to accusations or describing what they do. Okay, so let me not give too much of a preamble. Let's just jump right into this thing.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Daryl Hamill with Stop Hamill Time, and thank you again for joining us for another conversation. And with me today, I have somebody who's very interesting. Her name is Pat Harney, and she's the Director of Public Relations at the Church of Scientology. Welcome, Pat.
Oh, thank you very much, Daryl.
You know, the bottom line is really, I live in Clearwater. And one of your main, I believe you guys call it your Mecca?
Well, we call it the, flag is actually what we call it, because Mecca really belongs to the Islamic religion. Flag is a specific church. It's the church where Scientologists come from all over the world to get advanced Scientology religious services. Okay. So it is, a specific church for us.
Okay.
Now, based on what she just explained, and I don't know that he's going to pick up on it, and I don't know that she's going to elaborate, you cannot join Scientology at Flag. You cannot join Scientology in Clearwater. Most people don't actually understand this, even people who've lived in Clearwater for decades or for generations. And the fact that you can't join Scientology, the reason you can't join is based on what she just said. It's the highest level organization. People come from all over the world from other Scientology organizations to come to this organization. You have to have clearance to come here based on already having a good track record at other organizations. You can't just walk into the door as someone off the street and join Scientology at Flag. And the fact that you can't join Scientology here is why Flag is such a horrible community partner and neighbor to everyone around the Flag land base. It's why David Miscavige and Scientology fight so heavily against any initiatives that would redevelop downtown Clearwater, re-energize the business community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys, and this, is it almost equivalent to a Mecca? Would that be correct?
It is okay. Equivalent in that this is where Scientologists aspire to come to as they ascend through Scientology religious services, whether it's the counseling or the courses that are provided in Scientology to give one a better understanding of life.
I live in Clearwater. You guys are in Clearwater.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons I wanted you on the show, because I honestly don't know that much about Scientology other than maybe the negative stereotypes, or the fact that we hear Tom Cruise as a Scientologist. We hear of celebrities who are Scientologists,
right,
and they get kind of a stigma against them.
Right.
And I thought one day, I'm like, I live in Clearwater. I'm like, their flag, their, the equivalent to a Mecca is here in Clearwater. I'm like, dang, that would be really interesting to, have a real conversation and not like these things that we see, these series or these specials that are a deep dive into the dark world of Scientology, because I'm one who believes that there's always two sides to that story.
Right.
And before I do this, I do have to say, I did, when I met with you, Pat, I said, I don't want lip service.
Yeah.
I said, I want an actual conversation with somebody who can have that conversation.
Right.
And so you said, I'm in public relations and I can have that, and I don't need authority because I know what can be said, what can't be said. But I'm willing to have that conversation with you.
Right.
So that's why you and I are sitting down right now.
Yes.
Because I want to hear all sides. Yeah. But I also don't believe that we can say something about one person and then not give them an opportunity to talk. Yeah. And I wanted to have the real conversation.
Well, I applaud you for that, because I would prefer that for someone to actually ask me the questions, that instead of going to an outside source or something, because I know what happens when you do that. It's human nature to fill things in that they don't understand with rumor or gossip or negative stuff.
Or our own conclusions that are...
What's interesting is Scientology always wants to act like it is not possible to get information, accurate information about Scientology from former Scientologists. And yet at the same time, they expect you to believe everything they have to say about those former Scientologists. It's the epitome of hypocrisy. I know we don't expect anything else from Scientology, but I just wanted to point that out.
Kind of based off of ignorance, right? Like we don't know, we just fill it in based off our past experiences or other religions or other...
And we're not unique to that. I mean, that's if you say to folks and they don't realize they're in it, but throughout history, that is how it is on this planet. Something new comes along and it challenges people's status quos or their established beliefs. And so, they feel made wrong or somehow.
I don't want to stop it every 5 seconds, but when you hear a Scientologist say this planet, they use that language because they are very much differentiating this planet from other planets. Whereas otherwise you would just have someone say in the world or throughout history or throughout time or whatever. It would be really funny if someone would just be like, Pat, when you say this planet, is that because you do, as a Scientologist, believe in intelligent life and advanced civilizations on other planets? It's not even that I think it would be a controversial thing to ask or a controversial thing for Pat to admit. It's just that you never hear Scientologists admit or talk about the fact that such beliefs are integral to the Scientology belief system. If anything, it's just kind of a really interesting part of Scientology that for some reason Scientologists never talk about.
And, no, the earth isn't flat.
It's not.
Exactly. So, but besides that, most people are just curious and they don't know.
Right.
And so your feeling about it is what the majority of people feel. And I'm glad that you're asking me so I can answer your question.
Right. For me, I honestly don't know 100% what Scientology is. Yeah. In fact, I don't even know if I know what it is, like 50%.
Yeah.
Is it a religion that can be compared to something like, Christianity or, Judaism, or, is it something, like a Catholic, or is Scientology more of a belief and it's like based on science, or help us understand what is it?
Okay, so let's get back to that word Scientology, because it comes from two words, ology, logos, study of, and skio, knowing. So the study of knowing, study of knowledge. And
so the science and dentology, the two words, it's the study.
Is it just me? It drives me insane when someone tries to answer a question by giving the etymology of the word. He's not asking what is the etymology of the word Scientology. And it's one of the reasons why Scientologists will answer the question and you still won't know what the hell the answer is, because they answer the questions in ways like this, by providing information that doesn't actually answer the question that was asked.
Of knowledge.
Of knowledge.
Or knowing how to know. Now, in terms of if we wanted to compare it to a religion, the closest religion would be Buddhism, which is about, consciousness.
L. Ron Hubbard actually said that the subject Scientology is most closely related to is epistemology. The problem with giving that answer is that epistemology isn't a religion. So if you say Scientology is a religion, but it's most closely related to this subject, this other field of study, then all of a sudden you've taken Scientology out of the field of religion, and that's a no-no, since that isn't how Scientology wants to be treated by the IRS. Scientology has nothing in common with Buddhism, other than the fact that Scientologists do believe that L. Ron Hubbard was Buddha. And if this guy had more knowledge about Scientology, he could hit her with that question as well. Because that's the only basis upon which somebody could say Scientology is similar to Buddhism. They believe LRH was Buddha. They believe, based on what LRH said, that as Buddha, and within Buddhism, he created the state of Bodhi or Bodhi, and that was supposed to be a permanent state. But then L. Ron Hubbard, in his previous incarnation as Gautama Siddhartha or whatever, he eventually learned that the state of Bodhi, or Bodhi, I think it's Bodhi, but whatever, was only temporary. So he had to come back. He had to reincarnate as L. Ron Hubbard to formulate and develop Dianetics and Scientology to create the permanent state of clear. Did you guys know that? That's what Scientologists believe. Let's see how she treats this.
Understanding consciousness, that kind of thing. Body, which is knowledge. And so it is that, but it's also a science, because you respond to certain things, certain basic laws and principles. And so Mr. Hubbard, being a scientist himself, studied various religions, and he put things together and recognized certain basics to existence, and that is what Scientology is all about. And it is spiritual. It's a religion because it's dealing with you as a spiritual being. It says you are a spiritual being. You have a body and you have a mind, which Dianetics addresses, but you are the one who's looking at your mind. You're the one that's combining information and coming up with conclusions and driving the body. And that's who you are. And that's why Scientology addresses you as a spiritual being. It is not just, it doesn't just, this is Scientology, and that's it. You're talking about life. So you're talking about life in all of its aspects, which is why, you say someone wants to know about Scientology. You said the best thing to do is to actually read a book.
So this is the director of public relations for the Church of Scientology flag service organization. She just answered the question, what is Scientology? Anyone listening to that answer would still have absolutely no idea what Scientology is. She essentially said Scientology is life. It's so broad, it's so whatever. That's why the best thing to do is to do it for yourself and read a book about it. Yeah, but you're the PR director, and you can't simply explain what Scientology is. I mean, she's not unique in this matter. Nobody speaking for Scientology can ever explain what it is. And it's not that it's not possible to. You actually can. It's just that they're embarrassed to give the real answer. It's quite remarkable.
Scientology, New Slant on Life, Scientology, the fundamentals of thought. Dianetics actually does give you some basic information on Scientology. Or, Scientology TV, where all of the basics of Scientology are explained. But you're talking about 30 million words on the subject of Dianetics and Scientology.
If you watched my interview yesterday, David Miscavige said,
there are over 20 million words of printed words in Scientology.
20 million words. They just make shit up as they go.
And 3,000 lectures.
And there are 6,000 lectures by Mr. Hubbard.
David Miscavige said 6,000 lectures. It's just sort of silly.
All of the scriptures of Scientology.
Okay, so when you guys talk about Scientology, it does, you use words like scriptures.
Yeah.
You use words like the church.
Yeah.
You use, spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it almost sounds like Scientology is almost more logical and scientific. So I guess I'm finding that hard. I'm finding the correlation, or because I'm making a comparison to what I would say is more, let's say, like Christianity or Catholicism, like it's like 90% spiritual, right? And emotional and scripture. But whereas Scientology may use those words, but it seems like it's more science and fact-based as opposed to this, spiritual and higher power.
Yeah.
Because does Scientology have an ultimate being? Is there one all-powerful being like a god or anything in Scientology, or?
Okay, so let me just explain it this way.
Yeah.
And there are not pictures here that I can show you or demonstrate to you. But if you were to close your eyes and think of a cat.
Okay.
Did you think of a cat?
I have a cat in mind, yeah.
Good. What does your cat look like?
Looks like my old cat. It was like a calico cat.
Okay, great. What is your cat doing?
Just kind of standing there and looking around.
Good. All right. So you got that picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's your mind. That's not really your cat, but it's a picture of your cat, right?
Right.
Good. So that is the mind, which is mental image pictures. Now the question is, who is looking at the cat?
Well, I guess it would be me, because it's my mind, and
exactly,
that's how I'm looking at it. I mean, I guess that's how I'm visualizing it would be through, I would imagine my eyes, even though, like you said, it's in my mind. It's not real.
Right. Okay. So that me, that I, is you, the spiritual being. You're not physical. You're not the mind. You're looking at it. So that's you. That's the spiritual being.
Okay.
That's what Scientology addresses. And that spiritual being has basic laws, axioms, responds to certain things, and is the creator of your own universe. You chose that cat. You nurtured that cat. You have this studio. These are your things.
I'd like to point out that she didn't answer the question about whether Scientology believes in an ultimate being or a supreme being. This is what I mean. This is another example of Scientology spokespeople seem to be embarrassed to directly address the most common and basic questions about Scientology. They seem more preoccupied with pretending that Scientology is whatever they think will be most agreeable and acceptable to whoever it is they happen to be speaking to at the time. I'm not even sure if they're particularly aware in the moment how evasive and dishonest Scientologists come across having conversations because of that very fact.
This is your creation. So in Scientology, we talk about life as divided into 8 divisions. And the first, you're driven by a need to survive, by that urge to survive. We call it dynamic.
Right.
So the 8 divisions are 8 dynamics.
Or like our basic instinct to survive.
That's right. That's what you want to do. You want to survive. You want to do well. You want nice things.
Eat food and be protected.
You have to. That's right. And then the 8th dynamic is the God dynamic. What, some would describe as God. And we say it's infinity.
What some would describe as God. Not a Scientologist, of course, because Scientologists don't believe in God. I mean, she did just say we describe it as infinity. If the guy was prepared, and let's see, maybe he'll go there. Maybe he'll go, wait, you're saying some would describe it as God, but you describe it as infinity. Does that mean you don't believe in a God? If he goes there, I'll be shocked.
And definitely the source of creation. And, we don't dictate to a person how they worship.
But if you're saying that the 8th dynamic is infinity and definitely the source of creation, but not necessarily God, then what are you saying could be the source of creation that is not God? And the answer is, for Scientology, the answer is theta. Theta, remember, Scientology word for individual spiritual beings is thetans. Theta refers to just Thetans collectively. And it is a fact that Scientology's belief about this is that we as spiritual beings collectively created the physical universe. It's not that we are God, it's that God is a false idea. God is a mischaracterization, a misrepresentation of what is in fact basically Thetan power, theta power. And she's explaining this based on this understanding. And if you don't know that that's the understanding, then what she's saying might seem a little vague. If you know what Scientology believes, then everything that she's saying is actually perfectly accurate. She's simply doing what Scientologists are also instructed to do, which is never deny the existence of a God, because then people will think that we're not a religion. That's what's going on here.
Definitely the source of creation. And, we don't dictate to a person how they worship God. It's dynamic. We leave that up to the individual.
Now, she did just get a little cute there. She said, we don't dictate to a person how they should worship. No one asked about worship. They can never just be honest about the fact that a true, honest, like dyed-in-the-wool, hardcore Scientologist does not believe in the existence of a supreme being. Scientology goes to great lengths to perpetuate this lie that you can be a Christian and be a Scientologist. And if a public spokesperson came out and made it clear that Scientology's belief are not consistent with the Abrahamic God or the prophet as either Moses or Jesus or whatever, then it would fly in the face of the lie that Scientology tries to perpetuate about you can be a practicing member of other religions and be a Scientologist. Anyway, that's one of the reasons they tiptoe around this issue and they get all mealy-mouthed about it.
Some people have an issue with the Church of Scientology because they say, you guys aren't actually a church. You're not really a religion. When people say, you guys aren't really a church,
right,
you're just using it for a tax write-off.
Right.
How do you respond to people who say, Pat, come on, be real with me.
Yeah.
We're sitting down at a table, we're having dinner, we're all friends, we're having wine. Like, come on, be honest with me, be real.
Right.
It's not really religion. Pat, what are you doing?
Well, because I've had the experience of going to a Christian church, going to, the Church of Scientology, I can say from my viewpoint it is a religion. Mm-hmm. And then I can also say religious experts say it's a religion. So if you don't have to just believe me, you can go to all kinds of religious experts. And, I have tomes of books from them, because what you're looking at, one, you're looking at a subject that deals with the ultimate. It deals with cosmology. It deals with you spiritually. It says, yes, you want to be a better person. And so these are the things that religions address, right? Then you also have the aspect of the social aspect of people that are part of this organization that are also working together for bettering mankind or bettering the world. We work together to educate people about drugs or human rights, or we do all these various things. We also help people that have spiritual distress. That kind of thing. So you have that also, that the group is doing that.
Right.
And the church, its entire purpose is to tell other people what Scientology is, to grow as a religion, and to...
This is the one question she should be knocking out of the park. Guys, she's been the PR director of Flag for like 10, 15, 20 years. And she can't answer the most basic question of, how is Scientology actually a religion?
To help the world. So all of those things make it, religion, which is why it's recognized by religious experts, why it's recognized by courts, why it's recognized by the IRS.
And you believe it's a religion, though.
And I believe it's my religion.
You personally.
Yeah, and it's my religion. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I say, so if somebody asks me, well, okay, it's my religion, Just like if you're Islamic and that's your way of expressing your religious beliefs, then that's your religion, and I respect that. Because it's new or because it's different, that means what? That you would say, well, you're not, because mine is a religion. That's actually what you're saying. Mine is, but yours can't be, because I'm That's really what they're saying. And
Well, because it's a guy that wrote your book, right? It's not like a Bible where it was written by a higher being or stories from people who dealt with the higher power or the Quran, or they all seem to have something, whereas Scientology was started by L. Ron Hubbard, and they're like, well, he's not really a god. He's just a guy, and I'm trying to think, he was into Star Trek or something. I remember it was like some reference to him like way back when they used to kind of try to dismiss him and say, oh, that's crazy.
Right.
But, I guess maybe that's why some people may have that whole mentality and say, you're not a real religion. I mean, it's easy for me to see that other perspective because I can kind of see where people come from, but I also see your perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
But mainly what, if you say, okay, so you're not, okay, well, have you read a book? Do you understand? Because what they're actually saying is, I don't understand or I don't agree. Mm-hmm. Okay? That is why I answer people's questions. You have a question, I will answer you, and I might direct you to look, observe, not just listen to what other people say or what you think something is, but actually observe for yourself. And until you actually do that, you don't even have to be a Scientologist to read a book. You don't have to. If I read a book about China, that doesn't mean I'm going to be Chinese or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're just.
Is that how that works?
So, but you can get a better understanding.
All right, so let's go down this road. It sounds to me that Mr. Hubbard, right, L. Ron Hubbard, I'm saying that correctly now.
Yes,
right?
you are.
It sounds like he was more looking at there. There's another gentleman named Stephen Covey, and he teaches. It's one of my favorite books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, right.
And he says that the individual goes through, basically there's 3 levels. There's dependency, there's being independent, and then there's what's, interdependent, meaning we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And you can't go to interdependency without first becoming independent yourself. And we all start out dependent and move up. And the way you're making it sound, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Mr. Hubbard was looking past his dependency and had gone on to independent, but said, hey, this is an interdependent world and we need.
Scientologists hate it anytime someone tries to understand Scientology by comparing it to something they think is similar. So let's see how Pat deals with this.
To rely on each other to better civilization.
Yeah, I understand that.
So was that his main purpose of Dianetics? Mm-hmm. Because he didn't start the whole Scientology, as you said, that was started by another group after him. But was that his purpose with getting this message out there? And
yes.
Pat's like, he thinks I'm giving someone else credit for actually starting Scientology, where in fact all Pat said was that someone else is the one who actually incorporated officially the first Church of Scientology. These are not the same things.
The main purpose?
Yes, to actually want to understand and then to use it. By the way, Scientology was founded by L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay.
The Church of Scientology as an organization, as an incorporated organization, was done by Scientologists.
Okay. Yeah. So Dianetics and Scientology itself.
Yeah.
Was L. Ron Hubbard.
That's right.
But the church and being the incorporation was actually by another group.
By Scientologists.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but he is, the source of Dianetics and Scientology. And yes, he started looking into things and he found things that worked and he communicated to people about them and he used it. Now, I want to take it out of the realm of significance because Scientology has been used by millions of people from the 1950s to now to better themselves. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of people, however others might, whatever they might say, who've been helped by Scientology. I'm one of them. Mm-hmm. So if someone tries to, deny my reality, you can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I may be just my own ignorance, my own lack of understanding, but it almost seems as if Scientology is more under a spotlight of negativity more nowadays than it has ever been. Is that something?
This is not what Scientologists believe is true. So Let's see what she does.
Why is it the people that have really bad experiences seem to get so much traction?
I have done the surveys here locally, and I can tell you a majority of people actually don't think negatively of Scientology. A majority either, well, I don't really know, or they're positive because they've had, interactions with Scientologists. And like I think I mentioned to you, we do a lot of community events for free for nonprofit organizations in the Fort Harrison. We have
in the Clearwater area.
In the Clearwater area,
right.
We have the humanitarian programs that the church supports, that educating people on.
So again, even what she's saying is total horse shit, she is essentially responding to his question by saying, "You're wrong. Scientology's reputation isn't worse today than it was." Let's see if he brings it back to his point.
Drugs and so forth. And so we have many, many people and friends who know us. What happens is we have a thing called media. Mm-hmm. And what media thinks people want to hear is controversy. But we also have vested interests. Mm-hmm. The Church of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard from the 1950s came out and said certain things about drugs. He said that there are drugs, and I'm talking about the drugs that deal with the mind. And before LSD was known as the drug where people would jump out of the window, it was being used by psychiatrists, and they were talking about what a wonder drug it was. And people were taking that drug, and it was destructive. And he knew this from auditing people. And he said, this is not good. He came out and he said that it's not a good thing. He spoke truth.
Yeah.
And for that, there was a backlash from the vested interests.
Guys, I have never heard anyone in Scientology try to give this explanation for why the vested interests are against Scientology. By the way, when she's like, before everyone thought of LSD as the drug that makes you jump out the windows, you could see his eyes sort of glaze over, kind of like, is that the thing people think about LSD? I've never heard anyone blame LRH being against LSD as the reason why the vested interests started their war against Scientology.
To this day, we talk about it. If you're looking now at what's happening with the drug companies, that the opioid addiction, where, oh no, it's totally fine. You can take those pain pills, they're not very addicting, right?
Yeah.
And then people are dying. Okay,
literally nobody says that opiate pain pills are not addicting.
These drugs, and it's something we've spoken out against, and we are very much against things that are going to destroy the person's mind. We are really fighting two things: vested interests and ignorance, like not knowing. Mm-hmm. And that
But what about the actual members who leave and talk about how Scientology destroyed their lives? What does that have to do with the vested interests pulling the strings of the media and the governments of Earth?
With anything, there's a vacuum, it gets filled up, okay? But overall, most people can recognize that they either don't know or what they know is good. And that's what I found here locally. Mm-hmm. And maybe the negative people are vocal. Because most people are not going to just run around and say, oh, yeah, they're not going to necessarily be the PR for the church, but they know what their own individual experience is. You know what I mean? Right. And that's why, if I say this a lot of times, it's so important that people find out for themselves. You don't have to become a...
But Tom Cruise has one of the biggest platforms of anyone on this planet. He has a huge platform. He's very vocal. Like, if you're going to say the people who are negative, they must be very vocal. Yeah, but Tom Cruise is very positive, and no one's more vocal than Tom Cruise. So you telling me all of these former members who have tiny little platforms, even my YouTube channel's got about 60,000 subscribers. Well, if Tom Cruise started a YouTube channel, he'd probably have 100 million subscribers. So blaming Scientology's negative press on how vocal dissatisfied members are is really just pretty stupid.
Scientologists, you just need to understand something. It's like people talking about Muslims or something, and you don't know what the religion is. Like, you have no idea,
right?
And so you should find out before you just about something.
Well, there was if I'm not mistaken, there was some kind of a I don't want to use the word special. It was like a documentary or something by a female. And it was, I believe, you probably know what I'm talking about. She's a female who was a Scientologist and then escaped or got out.
Yeah.
And, she was, I guess she had kind of mentioned a lot of things that went on. And
You know damn well she asked him before this interview not to mention Leah Remini's name. Because there's no way he's spending all this time tiptoeing around Leah Remini and the 3 seasons of Scientology in the Aftermath on Netflix and just doesn't know her name. I don't believe it for a second.
And so, like I said, I haven't seen it.
No.
I really don't care unless
I don't believe anything he's saying right now. Do you?
you guys are having like some kind of a hostage camp down in your religion, which is...
Anyone who lives in Clearwater, he said that was the main reason he wanted to do this interview. Like, I live right here, you guys are right here. He has such a personal, I'll use the word vested interest in watching this documentary and knowing what's in it. And he seems to be natively interested in the subject or genuinely interested in the subject. I don't believe for a second that he hasn't seen it. I think he has to pretend that he hasn't seen it so that he can justify not saying Leah Remini's name and not confronting her with any of the actual real life, real world accusations. But even accusations is the wrong word. But the real things that were covered on the Aftermath show. Like, I thought he was doing a pretty good job in this interview, but I've just changed my mind.
It's illegal. I mean, I don't know why you guys... I doubt you guys don't do this, right?
Come on, no.
You guys don't keep people hostage. You don't hold people against their will.
No.
I walk downtown. I see Scientologists all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't have shackles.
Yeah.
They don't have ankle bracelets. Why is this popular? Why is somebody like her popularized? And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is your take on that, Pat, as far as when you see somebody come out like that and their whole popularity is on bashing the organization they were part of?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I understand. There was, maybe I can put it this way.
Yeah.
Have you ever had noticed some friends or people that you knew who were once very close, they're married, they're once very close, and then they got a divorce and she wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill her, or it was just very acrimonious. So this phenomena, I mean, I can tell you what it means to us in Scientology, but even from religious experts have looked at this, and, people will justify what they have done to harm the very thing that they were once very close to. She had the opportunity because right now, I read this article somewhere, like there's a veritable cottage industry of people who can come up now and say these things that are negative about my religion and to make money or to get famous or to get revenge.
Get a lot of attention.
Or to get a lot of attention, right? But you don't know what they did. What did she do? What happened? Because why would somebody lie if that were the truth, right? What about, law enforcement? What about, we've been here now for almost 50 years, since 1975. If one iota, a little bit, was any truth to it, right? Not that everybody is perfect. Come on. Not everybody is perfect, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, but you'll notice there's no part of what she's saying that acknowledges that there's any truth to the people who say, to when people say their lives have been destroyed by Scientology. It's always, they're doing it for fame, they're doing it for money, they're justifying their own harmful acts. Anyway, it's all part of the reason why Scientology PRs, people like Pat, can never just be honest.
I don't know a single person who's perfect.
Right? So we, we've been here for almost half the life of this city that's been incorporated. And
also this defense of like, oh, if any of these things were true, the police would have done something by now. Guys, Jeffrey Epstein could have said that for 30 years, up until the time when something actually finally happens. It's just not a defense.
And we're still here, and the church has grown, and we've done all this stuff, and we go out there and we talk to people about drugs or human rights or this and that, and we have many friends. We have thousands of friends, really do. And we partner with people, and we help people, and there are many marriages that are better because of us, and there are many people whose children are better because of us, and there are tons of stories about how Scientology helps people, but you don't see it. Believe what you see, not what you hear. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's out of laziness. I guess it's almost similar to, why can we have 5 people stand?
Laziness. You mean like not taking the time to watch 3 seasons of a documentary about the cult that has taken over the downtown of the city that you live in? I mean, I think this guy probably has seen the documentary Scientology in the Aftermath. But you want to talk about people being lazy and not doing their homework. How lazy would it be if this guy generally just couldn't take the time to watch the show on Netflix about the cult that has taken over the downtown of the city he lives in? That's laziness.
Standing around a table, eating an appetizer together, having drinks.
Yeah.
And I mean, 2019, argue about the way a world is spelled when we can simply pick up a phone and just Google it, and they don't. Have you, in your lifetime, ever come across something where somebody's like, "You're a Scientologist? Oh my God."
Yeah. One thing though, which I love about Scientology, we refuse to be victims. We refuse to be victims.
Good for you guys.
Yeah. We're not going to take that.
Yeah.
And so I remember being out doing surveys, and I asked someone a question about Scientology. And the guy said, "I wish they would get up on a building and jump off and die." And I just looked at him. I said, "What? Do you know you're talking to a Scientologist?" He realized what he'd done to the point where he burst.
I'll take things that never occurred for 300, Alex.
Out laughing. It was so ridiculous. You're just being ridiculous, okay?
Yeah.
So I just refuse to be a victim. I'm not. I am doing very well in life. I know that
She said, "I'm dedicated to being the one who victimizes others."
intelligent woman. Is there prejudice? Is there discrimination? Yes, there is. But you know what? I'm not your victim.
What is it that's driving this negativity or this stigmatism against Scientology that you're seeing, not just as the PR person, but throughout the years? Like that's why I was asking you, was it that big a deal in '79 as opposed to it is in 2019? What is it that's driving that mentality in that person's head specifically against Scientologists? I mean,
it isn't any different than any other type of prejudice. Mm-hmm. There are people, and this is a Scientology principle, there are 20% of this population of Earth, luckily 80% are social people, and then you have 20% who are truly dedicated to doing damaging things. They're truly dedicated. They just have that evil impulse. And there is a spiritual reason for that. But those are the people who will put out misinformation. We've seen it with fake news. Where's the fake news?
But you see, she's always responding by referring to misinformation. It's always on the premise that people's complaints about Scientology are lies. A Scientology PR would be so much more effective if they just admitted that there are instances when people have been treated horribly and Scientology is dedicated to doing better, but they're not allowed to say that.
News come from? Someone put it there. Why did that person do that? Why do you want to lie to people?
Well, because they have...
Also, because part of the reason is realize Scientology doesn't consider that the mistreatment of these people was wrong or a mistake. So Scientology can't come out and say we're going to do better because these people were treated exactly the way Scientology policy says they should be treated. This is actually kind of the catch-22 that I haven't quite articulated up until this point. They can't say mistakes have been made because the horrible way people are treated in Scientology isn't actually a mistake. I think that's important to understand.
Their own motivations,
Yeah.
right? They have their own things that they want to attain, and so if
right.
they have to lie to get there or put somebody down,
That's right.
You know.
And there's a percentage of people who are like that. I know that there's some people who are never going to necessarily like me,
yeah,
but that's, it's okay. I have a lot of friends. On the other hand, there are 80% of people who are very positive and will talk and will ask and will, try to find out, and they're not motivated in that way. Some of the people that have said things about Scientology over the years, we've recognized exactly what was occurring with that person, what happened. We can also self-reflect on things that may have been done incorrectly, but when something is perpetual and intense and will not resolve no matter what you say, then it's not anything coming from this side.
He should ask a question here. What is an example of a criticism that has been levied against Scientology that was accurate and correct and that Scientology has worked to improve? If he wanted to demonstrate that he's being an honest interviewer and he's going to hold her feet to the fire, that would be a very fair question.
yeah.
What's happening over there?
Part of me is having a hard time coming to grips with understanding people who have this stigmatism against Scientology simply because I haven't seen anything regarding your organization where it negatively impacts people's lives. Now, I do remember, and I don't know all the facts, so
Yeah.
this is more like my opinion, and it could already be distorted in my own mind. I know something is, the president is David Miscavige?
He, the chairman of the board of the Religious Technology Center.
Yes.
He is the current ecclesiastical leader.
And I know that there was something about his father, and his father was like, "Oh, he's sending hitmen after me or something," or they're watching me, So there's things like that, and that's what makes the news, right? And not if you guys help somebody get over
The guy's asking the question in an already exaggerated, inaccurate way. He's teeing it up for her by asking a question that's not even accurate. It's a straw man thing. Of course, she's going to be like, that's ridiculous, that's absurd, because it is ridiculous and absurd. That's not ever what Ron Miscavige Sr. actually said. It's not the reality of what occurred. So I don't know what exactly he's doing here. On one hand, it seems like he's being very persistent in asking what is a pretty decent question. But on the other hand, he's giving her all of the ammunition she needs to wiggle out of it and give bullshit answers. I'm a little confused as to what's actually going on here.
their drug addiction. Like, that's not news.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to report about that. So, I mean, I can see it from that perspective where only the bad stuff gets out and that's all they want to report on.
That's right.
When I see things like that, I'm always like, well, is it true? Is it not true? Is that all this organization is about?
Totally not true. I mean,
it's hard, but I mean, I guess I can see where somebody like my friends who are very rational people, what I would consider, I mean, they're my friends, and I would like to think I hang out with open-minded, rational people, but I can say that my friend's wife had seen that thing with that lady, and she was like, Daryl, you got to be careful, Lindsay, they're crazy, and it's like this whole thing is a cult, and they brainwash people, but like you said, I meet people like you, and it's very contrary to the truth. I mean, I've just watched the people walking downtown, all the people, and like the people who are in Scientology don't look brainwashed to me. They look like they're every normal person just doing a job and going about their routine. It's lunchtime, or they're going from one location to the other, just doing their job.
Right. And those are the Scientologists that you can recognize because they're wearing uniforms. But
I don't mean to harp on this one point, but it's like, come on, dude. Oh, I see them walking around. They look not brainwashed. How does someone walk, or how does someone look when they're not brainwashed? And who even used the word brainwashed? How did that enter this conversation? It's like, it almost seems like this interview was staged to make it look like he was going to hold her feet to the fire. Because if that was really his intention, he's doing a very poor job.
Because we're a rather large organization here, there's 2,400 or so staff members, and they wear uniforms.
2,400?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is a big organization. But then,
is that just in Clearwater?
Just in Clearwater.
2,400?
Yeah.
Wow.
There are thousands more who you're not going to see in uniform. They don't work for the church. They have their own businesses. There's a business owner right here who's a Scientologist, and
they edited that out. Let's listen to it again.
There's a business owner right here who's
No before is what she said.
650.
Stu Showerman.
Some Scientologists, some not Scientologists, mostly not Scientologists, and it's right here in downtown. You wouldn't know necessarily, whether he's a Scientologist or not, unless you go looking or something. Some of these rumors and things that are said, they're, even personally, you go, what?
Now, I will say, and for what it's worth, because I see a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
If Scientology is a lot based on your mind and the way the mind works.
Yeah.
And then there's people out there, and who am I trying? Like Tony Robbins, and he's a person who's very big in the mind.
Again, Scientologists hate being compared to other things like Tony Robbins. Let's see what she does.
And he believes that the mind controls, the mind can do amazing things. He believes that the mind can heal you.
Yeah.
And he, let's say people who follow him and are like, oh, I agree, he can perform miracles. He's cured people of depression right there just with their mind. Isn't it safe to assume that you guys, if you're very mind-based, also can have the same level of miracles, no different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to invalidate anybody else's,
I mean, it's very similar when you think about it, though, right?
Yeah, it's similar.
You guys are using the power of the mind.
Yeah, it's similar in experience. It's specific for Scientology because we have a precise technology, and it's not just, let's just all think positive. It's not that.
And
it's
proven.
A precise. No, it's a precise.
Well, I mean, proven that you guys have done over the years.
I thought she just said she wasn't going to dump on other people's experiences, and then that's exactly what she just did.
And you're like, hey, this is very precise. It's worked for thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people.
Right, totally. And, that's how it is. And it's similarly, nobody has to just believe me. They don't. You don't have to believe me. This is just my reality.
Don't worry, Pat. Nobody does believe you. But again, you see how this guy, he asked a question and then he basically half answered it. Like, why is he doing her job for her? I don't necessarily think that Scientology went to this guy and said, hey, can you help us do this sort of fluff interview? I don't think that's what happened. This guy's channel is tiny. This interview has been online for 3 years. It's got less than 1,000 views. I don't think Scientology needs his help in forwarding their propaganda. And yet, that's exactly what he's doing. It's like he can't get out of his own way. It's like, dude, you asked a good question. Let her answer it or fail to answer it, as the case may be.
This is what I feel. This is what I know. But I have evidence, and I can prove it to you. I can show it to you. But I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just saying, listen, I can do something to help, and I'm willing to help. And we help all the time. Even in our community, there's a disaster. We have Scientologists who go out there and they volunteer and they help do things, I think when we had Irma here, you saw, the volunteer ministers. We were all over the city helping because, it's still our city, our friends, our neighbors. Let's do something to help. So that's going to happen regardless. And like I said, all the other things that we do, and we do have a lot of friends, but you're right, that doesn't hit the media, and you'll see a lot of the controversial things. You'll do a lot better if you don't just listen to the media, that's for sure.
Let's talk really quick about the city. What's the relationship there? Is there some tension maybe behind the scenes? Is Flag, the church, somewhat discriminated against as opposed to, say, another business? What are your thoughts on that?
We're a very large organization. We contribute almost $1 billion to the economy. That study was done.
The U.S. economy, or?
But no, here in Clearwater.
Clearwater.
To the Clearwater Academy. This church here in Clearwater contributes, impacts about $1 billion. Direct spending and indirect spending.
Okay.
That study was done by Florida State University.
Which is an independent source.
Totally independent.
The study used Scientology's own numbers in everything. It was a total bullshit study.
FSU, right.
FSU. We actually pay taxes. We pay property taxes. We pay bed tax.
Scientology is tax exempt. They only pay property taxes on the portion of their properties that are designated as hotels and restaurants. They only pay taxes on about 20% of their real estate holdings. And they own so much property that even that 20% that they pay on makes them the largest property tax payer in downtown Clearwater. But they are at the same time the largest drain on tax revenues. Think about it. If paying taxes on only 20% of your property makes you still the largest taxpayer in downtown Clearwater, then just imagine how much you are screwing the city of Clearwater by eating up all this, by not paying taxes on the other 80% of your holdings. It's remarkable.
We pay for our utilities. We bring in Scientologists who then employ others.
Now, when you say bed tax, that's because you have the hotel in Fort Harrison, right? And so,
yeah,
like any other hotel?
Well, although it's a religious retreat, it is a religious retreat and could be tax exempt. We pay bed tax.
False. They have to pay bed tax on their hotel properties. She's acting like they're voluntarily doing it. That's a complete lie.
In other words, Scientologists pay 7% or whatever it is for each room night.
So you guys could opt and fight to not pay the bed tax, but you guys
we chose to pay it. We pay property taxes. We actually pay property taxes on that part of the property that is not strictly religious.
Okay.
Yeah. So
$1 billion, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And that's because we, all the food that we buy for staff, I told you it's over 2,000 plus all the Scientologists who come here. We have Scientologists that come from all over the world. They not only come here and just take services, but they also go out and they might go to the beach and they buy other things. And then you have the Scientologists who actually live here, that moved here. If the church were not here, they wouldn't be here. Right. And they contribute to the economy. So we are a large organization. We're a major organization. We have just in 3 buildings downtown, we have a $250 million buildings. The Flag Building, the Fort Harrison. We renovated these. We made sure that
none of this matters. Only Scientologists are allowed to use those buildings. Who cares how big they are? Who cares how valuable they are? Who cares how much money you spent on renovations when it means nothing to the citizens and the city of Clearwater?
It was something that we could be proud of, and also the city could be proud of. Tourists come here all the time. They want to know, well, what is this? What's happening? A lot of people, they just want to know.
They don't come. The tourists aren't coming here to look at your Scientology buildings.
And so we contribute a lot, in addition to the fact that we have our humanitarian community work that we do to help nonprofit organizations and so forth. And then Scientologists themselves, with their businesses, there are a lot of business owners who are Scientologists in this area, or consultants or so forth. So,
and I can say firsthand that you guys do host some Toastmaster groups down there.
That's right. There we go. And
this is Scientology's idea of community outreach. They do have these big, massive spaces that don't get used for anything. So they will offer their spaces up. Hey, if you want to hold an event, you can hold it here for free. That's what they call community outreach. Hey, you want to put on an event? You can do it in our space. They're basically giving away stuff for free, and that is how they make friends. The only way Scientology makes friends is through the money.
So we help lots of different, I think there are over maybe now close to 300 nonprofit organizations that directly work with us, and others another couple thousand who get our materials. When I'm talking our materials, I'm talking about the humanitarian materials of the Truth About Drugs, or, water, human rights, and so forth.
Right.
So I think we are, what's the word? We are a very visible organization, a very major contributor. So it would be difficult for the city to ignore that.
I'm pretty sure the original question was something like, how is the relationship with the city? What is it like working with the city? And she goes off on this tangent. She hasn't even addressed the actual question.
And we are law-abiding people.
Right.
So
financially, you guys are a big player, especially.
We're a big player.
By any standards, I think in any city, your organization would be a considerable player.
Yeah.
But aside from the beaches, you guys are a major player in Clearwater.
We are a major player in Clearwater.
The only place that Scientology is a major player in Clearwater is in Clearwater's tiny little downtown district. People don't realize how big Clearwater actually is. People don't realize that 90% of our economic activity actually occurs on the beach. He does mention the beach, but I don't want to give Scientology credit for then basically dominating the rest of Clearwater. Our downtown area is tiny compared to Clearwater as a whole, and our downtown area is the only place that Scientology has any presence at all.
And
financially, and even just size-wise.
Size-wise, financially, as community.
How many people would you say go through annually through coming in for the religious retreat and all that a year? How many people? I don't want to use the word cycle, but I guess how many people cycle through?
Like about 12,000 individual people coming from, whether they come from Rome or London or Paris or.
That's actually a probably pretty accurate number. Now think about that. They claim there's about 8 to 10 to 15 million Scientologists, and yet on an annual basis, even she is saying, only about 12,000 Scientologists from all over the world come through Flag for any reason at all. I think she's actually giving an accurate number. And by the way, there's about 120,000 people living in Clearwater. There's only about 3,000 Scientologists who live in Clearwater, and that includes the 2,000 or so staff members that she referred to earlier.
So how is your relationship with the city, or how do you feel that you're treated?
I think we have decent relationships with the city. Mm-hmm. It's decent. It's civil. And they are, after all, the government of this city, and we respect that.
Are you guys treated fairly?
Yeah, I would say we're treated fairly. Let's just look at it analytically. We're the major organization in the downtown, right? Yeah. If we were a university or something that's contributing, there are certain things that are expected of a major organization, which is why, and we understand that, and we contribute in that way. Good, we can help, we have resources, we can do that. Similarly,
I wish you would be specific, because I have no idea what she's talking about.
You are represented by a government. If we're law-abiding people who are contributing, we expect certain things. That they didn't sell us the property. Okay, they didn't sell us the property. I get it. Do I think it was something that was correct or not? Well, I'm not going to say, really, because I just think that it happened, and we've moved on from there. We're not hurting.
Right.
Where is Imagine Clearwater? What's happening with that? How is that doing? Yes, we have, the Harborview Center has come down, and I know now the city has to look at how is it going to continue. In 2014, the city hired Urban Land Institute to come in. Don't even look at my viewpoint. Let's just look at the experts that the city themselves hired. The Urban Land Institute told the city of Clearwater, the Church of Scientology is a major institution. You are major also, right? And this downtown is not going to improve unless you guys partner.
Really?
Really. I have the study.
Partner, how so?
Like, cities, let's work together.
Now, is that because you guys have that, like, more of the financial backing?
Now, this goes back to what I said about Scientology pretends like they want to be an active and productive partner in redeveloping downtown, and then they point their finger blaming the city for the reason why downtown Clearwater doesn't get developed, when in reality, Scientology has enough resources that they themselves, if they wanted to, could actually redevelop all of downtown Clearwater. They don't even need the city's help. But the fact that the city hasn't been wanting to work with Scientology sort of gives Scientology an excuse to just sit back and go, well, I guess this city's at fault. Scientology is perfectly happy with the status quo of things being dead and quiet and not active. But anyway, I'll just keep going.
Yeah,
and your taxes and all that are right. You guys are, because that's my big thing when anything I do through the chamber, through the city or whatever, I'm like, you can bring scooters, you can set these regulations, whatever. I was like, but ultimately you need to bring money down there. If you guys are bringing and impacting that much money in downtown, play nice.
Yeah.
Because if they were to leave or if they were to diminish even by 50%, how does that impact you?
Right. You would have your unemployment rate would go up just by the mere fact of the people who are employing people wouldn't be there. The church itself just...
See, this is a straw man argument. Nobody's talking about getting rid of Scientology. That's not part of any of the city's plan. Scientology doesn't have any plans to leave, and yet that's the basis of the argument that she's making right now. Well, if we were to leave, employment would go down. No one's talking about that.
In terms of what, if Cisco brings the food or any of the many companies that we work with, they wouldn't have that business. I can actually give you a copy of that study because it's a fascinating study on a very respected institution that was the expert that the city pulled in. And it said, partner. And
do you feel like they've partnered with you guys?
Well, let's put it this way. When, it wasn't just that we were asking for that one little piece of property, which what we needed it for was to put a retreat there for families, because we get families here and we wanted to have a place for the kids. And the exchange would be, we would help with the downtown, okay? We would help by fixing up the facades in the areas, and we would help to a number of different things. There was an exchangeable thing. It wasn't
like refresh and help out with the decay and things like that, kind of.
That was one example of how we could partner.
Again, if you wanted to hold her feet to the fire, you could go, so wait a second. You offered to do a whole bunch of stuff to revitalize downtown Clearwater, but since they wouldn't sell you that land, you guys decided that you wouldn't do that? So you guys aren't going to help downtown Clearwater unless they agree to sell you this one little piece of land? But I thought you already owned tons and tons of land. Why would the help that you are prepared and willing and able to give downtown Clearwater, why would all of that hinge solely on you being able to buy this one little piece of land? That doesn't make a lot of sense, Pat. But he's not going to go there.
Let me ask you this. If the government didn't step in, let's say the city government, would you guys eventually, do you think, no. What about the whole idea of if they didn't step in, Scientology would take over downtown?
What does that mean?
I guess buy up everything and use it just for your needs. And then downtown Clearwater would basically become nothing more than just Scientology. Just a different perspective.
No, I understand. There is there's a Church of Scientology, and we already have the properties that we need for our religious retreat.
Yeah.
When we offered to do that exchange and we would help with the facades and so forth, it was not so that the Church of Scientology would own the property or would run it or do anything. It was going to be developers and businesses who could come in, because we recognize the challenges that were being faced for businesses. Our mission is Scientology.
Right.
So that's what we're about. We happen to come here and we've improved the Fort Harrison. When we built the flag building, there was an empty piece of property, even to the point of moving the tree, like physically moving 100-year-old oak tree, right? So we try to keep our civic responsibility in the forefront and align it with things that, people would want. And we are Clearwater residents. We represent all spectrums. So we, of course, you're our government. We respect and we look forward to the same treatment as anyone else.
Yeah.
That's all.
It
Had nothing to do with the question that he asked.
And I think it's a fair question, because it's not just Scientology, and it's not that I'm pointing you guys out specifically. It's just you're in front of me.
Yeah.
But people have been saying about like Facebook or Google, and in the advertising marketing world, basically they've taken over, right? And they control all the dollars. I think Google has something like 85 to 95% of the advertising dollars now.
Yeah.
Well, now Facebook's a major player. So people say if they go unchecked, unregulated, they'll own everything and they'll run over the world, So I think that mentality's always there. And it's like, with you guys down in downtown Clearwater, people are like, oh, if they run unchecked and unruled, they'll take over everything. And that's capitalism to a certain extent. It's like when you win and you keep winning and you keep winning, well, you're the dominating force. Right. And it just... So I guess that's why
I understand.
I can see that perspective of some people, but there's a part of me that just says, hey, unless you guys are finding somebody else that's willing to put the millions or billions of dollars down there, you work with what you got.
Right.
And you don't, per se bite the hand that's there. Yeah. Not just trying to feed you, but that's there.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what your perspective is on that.
I think that mentality is the same as saying, oh, the black people are moving in. Oh, my God, let's leave. Okay? It's a reactive thing. It has nothing to do...
The brown people, the white people are coming, there goes the neighborhood.
The Muslims, the blah, the blah.
There goes the neighborhood.
Yeah. Like, hello, come on, look.
Right.
I say to you, look at the building. Look at what we...
So then why won't Scientology do what they said they were going to do to help the city of Clearwater just because they weren't able to buy that little piece of land? I really wish he would put this question to her.
Done. Anybody looked down here to see what these buildings used to look like before we actually fixed them up? Sorry, we're not downtown, but like right outside if we were.
Well, I did go by your one building and I looked through the timeline and the pictures you guys took before and the after, and I mean, you can't deny the facts. Yeah. I guess the emotion in some people. I'm a very logical person, so I guess I'm in line with you, Pat. I can say, hey, this is... But I guess when some people get emotional, they're like, well, yeah, that's nice, but they're going to own it all. And then, Daryl, then what? We're all just going to L. Ron Hubbard, and we're going to fly into space, and we're going to be cremated, and our ashes are going to,
Yeah, it's not. That's just trash.
I love the way you just said that. That was the most non-PR thing that you've probably ever said. That's just trash. That was totally like that, 17-year-old girl from Jamaica who gave her, she's like, somebody told her on K Street, you're crazy. You're like, that's just trash. Get out of here.
But you know what I mean? It's like, no, we have a mission in Scientology, and that's our mission, and we're Scientologists. But like I said, I get it. There's a certain percentage, and they're vocal, and they say these things which are not inspected for evidence and for truth. But we have a majority. We have friends who are like, what are you talking about? Have you been in the Fort Harrison and actually come to an event and actually socialize with Scientologists? They're Clearwater residents. I live here. I have an address that's in Clearwater. I'm a Scientologist and I work for the church, but I am a Clearwater resident, just like you. And I went to an interfaith event. And it was really fascinating.
So what do you mean by an interfaith event?
It was actually, after the New Zealand massacre where that Australian guy went into and he killed 52
This is
people.
a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
And we wanted to show our...
Now, multiple faiths, though, right?
Yeah,
Interfaith.
multiple.
It doesn't
That's
matter
right.
what your background, you're there to support.
No, this beautiful lady put this thing together about 5 years ago, and anyway, I found out about it, and she was gracious and invited us to participate, and we did, and there are people that are fine with it, and so forth. And I went to represent the Church of Scientology in offering condolences to the Muslims, and it was done at a mosque in Dunedin. And there were about 400 people, and then you had the Catholics, and there was Jewish person, and all these different denominations of Christians. Even the Quakers were there, and so forth. And before the whole thing, before I actually went up to say just a few words, I sat down with some folks, and my friend, who's a Quaker, said, "Oh, we were just talking about you." Really? What were you saying? Scientology. Yeah. What can I answer? How can I answer you? What do you want to know?
Are you curious?
Right. Are you curious? And the lady said, "Well, the one thing is, I just don't like how you buy up the buildings and you're buying up the buildings and then people can't go in." And I said, "What specifically are you referring to? So give me some specifics so I could, because we haven't bought up the buildings that people can't get into." And so then it was that one thing. So I explained to her, yes, we wanted to buy it for the families that come here so that the children would.
She already said they have all of the buildings and properties that they need for their religious retreats. And this is a false PR line that Scientology has used. We wanted to buy that property to build swimming pools for the kids. It's total horseshit. It's not true at all. They want to buy the property just because it's right next to the Flag Land Base and they don't want somebody else putting anything there. Do you see? She's contradicted herself in this interview about what their needs and plans are for that property.
Have a place specifically for them. And it was just this, I think it's 2 acres or something. It's not, or maybe not even. Mm-hmm. It's a very small plot, but it would complete our campus because it's right next to the Oak Cove Religious Retreat. That's ours, and right across from the Fort Harrison.
Is that down by the library?
It's about 2 blocks from the library. It's right across from the City Hall, where City Hall used to be. So she said, yeah, well, yes. I said, well, okay, so I get it. We weren't just asking for that. First of all, we were going to pay for it. Secondly, it would go on the tax rolls. And thirdly,
it would stay on the tax rolls because it's a hotel. It's not, they're planning on putting another hotel there just for Scientologists.
We're offering to fix downtown.
So was it that buy that she was asking or referring to specifically when she said you guys are buying up everything and then you won't let anybody go in there?
Yeah, that's exactly what she was saying. If you own a house and it's your house and you bought the house, you just don't have anyone walk into your house. Usually they knock on the door.
Well, you guys are a private organization.
We are a private organization. And if it were, no different than the Mormon Church or if it were a university or something, you know what I mean? Come on. I get it. But this is our church. And this is what we participate in. And we understand. So
in other words, the lady's concerns were valid. You're buying up all the property and then no one else can use it. She was completely correct. You're verifying, you're validating that she was correct.
Here's what our bargaining for this, our negotiation thing for this. And I explained that to her. And she goes, "Oh." And then the other lady goes, "But you don't pay taxes, do you?" So I said, "Oh, by the way, yes, we do. We are the largest taxpayer in downtown and probably around the first 10 in all of Clearwater, in addition to the fact that we pay a bed tax."
So you could be exempt from some of the taxes and you guys still voluntarily pay them.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That is a bald-faced lie, and I'm going to have to figure out what to do about that information. She is literally saying that they are voluntarily paying a tax that they don't have to pay. That is 100% false.
We agreed to it.
Now, can anybody stay at the Fort Harrison Hotel, or is that Scientologists?
No, it is a religious retreat. It isn't even a hotel.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's like people come from all over.
It's a converted hotel.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha.
So what we do is we open it up for the community to use our banquet facilities or our conference facilities.
Oh, do you really?
Yes, for free.
So the facilities down at that hotel, the old Fort Harrison Hotel, which is now part of your retreat.
Yeah.
You guys open up the banquet facilities for people in the community.
Yes, for nonprofit organizations.
Did you say for free?
For free.
What?
Yes, like when we had the 400
Yeah, if your nonprofit organization wants to have the stigma of hosting your event at one of Scientology's properties, yeah, you can use it for free. But also, I want to make sure, let's not mince words here. The Fort Harrison Hotel is 100% a hotel. They have to call it a religious retreat so that they can prevent anyone who's not a Scientologist from staying there. He misunderstood a little bit. He was like, oh, it used to be a hotel, but now it's been converted into a religious retreat. It is a hotel, and only Scientologists are allowed to stay there.
50 people from the Gentleman's Course, which is Christopher King, grandson of B.B. King, was doing his event. He teaches kids etiquette and human rights. We did the whole thing. We catered it. We opened it up. It was for free. And he had 450 people there.
And all they have to do is obviously pay for their own catering and things like that, but they don't charge you. You guys don't charge a rent fee.
They didn't even pay for the catering. We did this. We paid for everything. We bought the food. We did everything.
Wow.
Because the food is being prepared by Sea Org members who make less than 50 cents per hour.
Now, you guys aren't going to do that, obviously, for everyone.
No.
But what you're saying is you're not going to charge a fee, which almost every place does.
Yeah.
Especially a private.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not taxpayer funded.
Yeah.
You guys pay the rent. You guys are paying the taxes. But yet you guys open this up for people to use in the community.
Yes. That is our community outreach. That's what we do. We do it for nonprofits who are like his nonprofit helps kids.
And yes, nonprofit.
Yes, and nonprofits.
Right.
And that's something we can only do nonprofits for tax reasons because we are a 501c3 and we can't compete with businesses basically.
Right.
So, and we do about about 50 to 60 events like that every year.
Wow.
And then we have all the humanitarian offices, which are also open to the public. They can use those facilities.
Now, how do the people get a hold of all this? Is this through the main building on Cleveland Street?
Yes, at our Scientology Information Center, where they can actually find out for themselves the truth about Scientology.
And that's the old Clearwater Bank, right?
That's the old Clearwater Bank building. We have a wonderful lady there by the name of Amber Shelsett, and who's at reception, and we have 400 videos, but we also have a conference room that's open to the public that they can use for meetings, for community meetings, and we have concerts there. We have different things there.
Wow.
But they can find out more about our facilities in the Fort Harrison by contacting that, which, by the way, people can contact me. I can give a number at 727-467-6860.
Okay.
Right? 467-6860 if they have more questions about Scientology or about what I told you.
What's a good email address that people can get a hold of you guys?
A good email address for me is Pat Harney at churchofscientology.net.
Okay.
All one. Pat Harney at churchofscientology.net.
You know what? And before we sign off, Pat, I just have one question for you, if that's okay. And this is going to be one of those that you can answer again how you see fit. What do you think is the one thing that could turn around downtown Clearwater and make it more viable for people to want to come to?
Yeah.
Because you guys have at least 12,000 people that go through.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they say it's desolate down here. God, I wish What do you guys, or what is your take on it?
What did the Urban Land Institute say? They said...
Was this a study from 2014?
That was the study from 2014.
Okay.
Partner with the Church of Scientology. And you can say I am talking to you as a Scientologist, but I'm also talking to you as someone who's been there. We've worked with the city on the Main Street program when they had the Main Street program. We brought Starbucks in. We have, offered all kinds of things. We've fixed up these major buildings. We've, invited people to come in. We do all of this because we do want it to succeed. Mm-hmm. And that's what it says.
She seems to be interpreting partner with the Church of Scientology as a recommendation for long-term success. She seems to be interpreting that as if it were an instruction to the city to do what Scientology asks of you. And it seems that Scientology is penalizing the city by going, you didn't sell us the land that we asked for. So we're not going to do any of the things that we said that we were going to do for downtown. She's just pointing her finger at the city when she's already said Scientology has all the buildings that they need for their flagland base. She's already said that. She's already said that they offered to do all these things for downtown Clearwater. So I wish his closing statement would have been, why isn't Scientology doing the things it promised it would do to improve downtown Clearwater? I understand this isn't a hard-hitting journalist piece, but I wish that was the question he asked.
And if that's the one thing, partner with the Church of Scientology. I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Is there a lack of communication? Could communication be better to get to understanding in your ARC?
It's always the best thing to do would be communicate, and there's that reality factor as well. Mm-hmm. So, we're here and we're totally open and saying yes, partner with us. It's not a problem.
All right. Well, Pat, I want to say, I love having these conversations because I always feel like I'm learning. I feel like I'm being selfish because I pull so much information and learn so much.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you so much for being here, your time, and I know how valuable your time is and how many different directions you're being pulled in.
Yeah.
But, getting the information out there, maybe dispelling some myths, maybe some new questions for people, and maybe just the whole idea of, hey, you guys don't have to agree with what we believe, but this is what we believe. So if you are more curious, let us know, and if not, it's cool. Just do your thing. But this is what we do, and and also for Clearwater itself, I know the Tampa Bay area is a lot smaller than we think, and so you spending your time here and sharing your information, I greatly appreciate it, and I hope people watching this can pull something from it. And if they have more questions, either reach out to you guys directly, or maybe reach out to me, and maybe I can get in contact to answer those questions. And who knows, maybe in the future, get some groups together.
Would love it. I'd love to tour some people through, and it'd be great.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll be at this table again with somebody from the city, or somebody else, and we can try to get that arc a little bit closer to the middle.
Yes, and I just want to say, we work with the city. We have, decent relationships with them. That was just their experts said partner with the Church Scientology.
Right.
Of course, that's not the only thing that can be done.
Right.
And there's lots of, other things. And we are going to continue to do our part to help improve the city. So that's what I can say. And people can ask, call me at 727-467-6860 or Pat Harney at churchscientology.net.
And I'll make sure I have all that information that people can see.
Okay, great.
And so, and I got to say, you're a very delightful person, and you've been very open, very honest.
Yeah.
You know, unfiltered, unedited. So, and I greatly appreciate that. And I think, like you said, sharing the information is just the most important thing.
Yeah.
Getting the right stuff out there.
That's right. Exactly. And thank you very much for inviting me to come on your show. And it was great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks in the making, but we made it happen.
We did.
Well, again, thank you, Pat Harney with the Church of Scientology here in Clearwater. I almost said St. Petersburg, Florida. Clearwater, Florida, and you're at the Flag, correct?
It's the Flag Service Organization, but it's Flag. It's Flag to everybody, for all Scientologists all over the world, and Church of Scientology Flag.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pat.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Daryl.
Wow, that was, I don't know what I expected, but that was garbage. But that is about as honest and transparent as any Scientology PR is capable of being. And honestly, he said it took a couple weeks to set this interview up. I am sure that Pat never would have done this interview without certain guarantees about what would not be brought up. But I'll tell you what, given that she probably approved these questions beforehand, I really wish he would have been a little more aggressive in actually getting her to answer the questions or pointing out that she hadn't answered them. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this in the comments down below. Thank you, as always, to all of you for watching. Thank you. Extra big thank you to all of you who watched until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right